So the SEO color wheel theory is a chart and visualization tool that I've created over a number of years, working on various SEO and SEO content projects. So it's evolved slightly as the years have progressed. I'm sharing it now because I feel it's got a place in standard SEO work. If you a little bit later, I'll take you through the chart interactively. But essentially, in terms of communication, so perhaps at board level, or if you're dealing with stakeholders, it makes it much easier for somebody who isn't completely confident with SEO to understand what's going on. And if, for example, you required more budget for a new content project, this would help you identify some key areas which perhaps had gaps or structurally weren't sound, or as I'll explain a little bit further later on, provide opportunity for micro topics, which I describe as being your access point to your core market. So if you think about the white space in the inner circle being your core client base, or potential core client base, then the micro topics would serve to feed that in, and additionally through on-page SEO, serve to amplify the visibility of the key categories and web pages that you've got existing in your site currently. So so that's element one of the chart. The other side to it is the fact that it is a brilliant project management tool. So in terms of the identification and the deliverable elements that you do throughout the project, it becomes very easy to assess the value, and B the actual deliverables that have been occurring over the period of the project. So if you think about the average initial project being a minimum of 6 months, obviously you're then looking at several years to maintain a number one position. So this chart is invaluable in terms of communicating the work that's been done, or not. But yeah, hopefully this will all start to make a little bit more sense as we progress through the video. Essentially, just to go through the basics here, I'm suggesting that 5 categories are generally acceptable to be used throughout most sites. So we've got product. This particular example is an actual website. I have thinned it down a little bit due to the product categories being they're showing signs of structural incompleteness or error. So I've stripped out all of the categories and products relating to correctly attributed categories, which just leaves us with these incorrect ones here. So this is an e-commerce site, and therefore the product majority is perhaps greater than it would be for most others. But then desire, application, brand, and presentation being the remaining 4. And that type of structure, you may want to add additional categories or remove them, but the essentially those 5 should work for most sites. Desire is often one that is overlooked for surprisingly a lot of content. Brand, vitally important. This particular website isn't particularly hot on brand experience, but nonetheless, there is a duty really to make sure that the brand elements come through. So if you look at desire first, this is often, as I say, the element of a website that doesn't really exist, and certainly not in the right weighting. If you think about the sales funnel or the conversion funnel, that desire element and the reason for purchase is vitally important, whether it be on a basis of trust, or whether it be a basis of safety, or whether it be a luxury consumer item, and all of the lifestyle elements that go with that is really important. Here we go into the brand, and you can see that in this particular instance, most of these pages belong to the functional element, which, as I say, isn't giving a great indication of brand. and certainly not brand experience. Here we've got a bit of an issue with the blog, and the presentation in this particular instance is mainly video, which obviously gives rise to new content being created, perhaps in the form of podcasts or infographics. And presentation is generally what I would describe as being social ready content, so it's very shareable. Application, this is more functional. So if there are any manuals or how-tos, or perhaps if you look at related products, for example, that content would relate to that. And here we go into the product. So you can see here in the label values at the end, I've kept the page path visible, but I've altered the page path for client confidentiality purposes. You can see that we've got a product and a products plural appearing, which is giving rise to misclassification of products. We've also got empty categories appearing, and then we've got a whole lot of products around the outside here that have no category at all. So you'll also notice from these values that we've got the traffic label in the value, which also gets aggregated for the internal categories, so you can get to see what volume of traffic is going to what type of content, which is also incredibly useful. There's a lot more to this, and I don't want to. This is an early introduction to the visualizations, so I don't want to bore you all to tears. But if you do want to know more, I would urge you to get in touch, as I think it's I think it's a very valuable asset to have if you're thinking about starting a new SEO project, certainly. Or even if you're midway through, or just trying to get to grips with some of the content areas, then equally it can provide a very structured sense of factual position, and I must stress also that this is very much created from a topic structure, as opposed to an actual web build structure, although the page paths do indicate the structural element to the site. This is very much, you'll notice as you go through this that the blog pages appear in number of different categories. So yeah, it's more of a topic and an on-page linking guide, as opposed to being a structural directory of the website, of which there's obviously many tools, including Screaming Frog and all sorts of things. If you wanted to get that structural directory, there are already tools in place to achieve that. So this is very much looking at the content structure as opposed to the actual built structure. Anyway, I hope that's all helpful, and do get in touch.